Hey, this is Kirrus, KB Life, and I'm here with
Nick Langley.
And you just spoke on the panel
About the economics of webcomics.
So tell me, what are the economics of webcomics? Like, how does webcomic economy play into how people surf or how people choose?
Well, the economics, I covered kind of the various business models people have kind of used throughout the brief history of webcomics, like micropayments, cost per thousand, things like that, merchandising. I just kind of addressed how people have made money and some successes, some failures. We had Brock Heasley from Zuda Comics, which recently just went under. So he got to talk about some very interesting stuff about that and like why it failed.
Well, that is an interesting topic because most people, I think, when they think about webcomics, they think about something that's free. Like, why? So why should I pay for something when I can go online and like read it for free?
Yeah, well, that's not how webcomics make money. I mean, they do have to offer something for free. Typically, fans will just buy a printed volume of the comic, and that's how people will make money. Or they'll buy the merchandise based on the comic with their favorite character on it or something like that. But really, primarily, how webcomics make money is through advertising. Just that top banner, that side banner, making money off of those guys. That's really how webcomics make money nowadays. That's the most common way.
So how many fans, what percentage roughly, because I know you don't have like exact numbers, like would actually buy a printed version of their favorite webcomic?
Literally, kind of varies on the popularity. 1 to 10%. It's not big. So if you get 100,000 visitors a day, 1,000 of those might buy something. So, but if you're like really big and you're getting 3 million per month, that 1%, that 300,000 people buying your collection for $12, $20, something like that, that's still a ton of money. So that's how people make it. That's about the make.
How large is the webcomic industry in whole, like in general? Yeah.
Not big. They kind of think so many people are interested in it, and it's so easy to get something out there. There's probably 20,000 webcomics out there, and maybe 100 make good money. You know, it's not many, because so many people are willing to do it for free.
Right, because when I think of like webcomics, I think of like the biggies, like the Penny Arcade, maybe like VG Cats.
PvP, that's a big one, yeah.
But those aren't those like the rarities compared to like?
Absolutely, those are the rarities. It's more common for it to seem more like a hobby to a person. Like they make the webcomic and it can pay for itself through advertising or something like that. But it's just the webcomic by itself. It's hard for someone to really break into it. But also the problem is a lot of webcomics out there are kind of doing the same thing as Penny Arcade. The majority of webcomics out there are two nerds talking about video games. There's really a majority of webcomics.
Which is not our podcast whatsoever.
But that is what a lot of webcomics are, and you have to offer something different or just really niche. But that's also something else. Like since there's so many, they can get into more and more obscure things like knitting. If you have a webcomic about knitting, you can have an insanely loyal following, and you could have like 75 or 90% of the people that visit your website buy your stuff because there's not a webcomic on knitting. I love knitting. This is great. I get these jokes and no one else gets them. So they'll have fans. You do something.
There you go. If you need an instant hit, you heard it here first on the KD Life. Webcomic about knitting.
Yes. But yeah, that is really
pending
the big thing. Just doing something niche is really the big thing.
Well, like roughly then to be successful, okay, let's say just enough to be self-supportive.
Okay.
How many hits would you need roughly? Or like what would your fan base need to be?
Well, you're going to be pretty healthy if you're getting 800 to 1,000 visitors a day. If that's what you're getting, you're going to be good. You might even make a profit. Like a pretty sweet spot, like you can actually like probably start seeing profits like somewhere to 5 to 10,000 if you can find a decent advertiser, and then beyond that you're getting some pretty serious business. So that's, I'd say like that 800 to 1,000 is where you really want to be, but it's slow progress. You really have to stick to it for a year because it will suck at first. You're really not going to get much. You will be lucky to have like 150 after a month, like visiting your website a day. You'll be doing perfectly healthy. But really, you need to give yourself like a year to actually start getting those numbers.
Do you feel webcomic industry is more difficult to break into than the like print comic industry?
there is more money in the print comic industry. So I guess if you look at it like that, to actually, it's easy to get into webcomics, but to make money off of webcomics, I guess it might be easier. It kind of depends, because the thing is, you can have a company that's willing to buy your comic that they will print. Your comic could fail, but you've still made money off it because that company paid you.
Right, okay.
So it's not like you can put a webcomic out there. If it fails, it just fails. You don't make money off of that. So I guess in print it is easier to make money because you are being backed by a big corporation, lots of people that can support you, pay to advertise you, pay to print all the things you need. So I guess technically it is. But if you do have a really creative product that is great, then webcomics is the way to break in. And also webcomics is just good practice, you know, keeping something up there regularly. So it's how a lot of artists are starting out nowadays.
Okay. Oh, one more thing. So do you feel there's a difference between like web comics and trying to move comics to a digital format, like a full comic? So when I think web comic, I also think usually like single panel, kind of like a
three or four panels.
Right,
yeah.
like the Sunday Funnies, like that type. What about like a full comic, like a Marvel comic book or X-Men, like on the web?
Well, full page comic, like web comics, have not been very successful because it's just how we kind of process the internet. We don't stay on any one website very long because we tend to want to hit 20 at a time if we sit down. And you tend not to stay there really long. You're not there to like digest a big experience. As for the transition to like something like X-Men or Marvel, one of the big companies going there, I think it's just a new venue. I don't think we're going to lose print or anything like that. I think it's just I think we're actually going to reach new readers. It's not like the comics nowadays, it's not like Green Lantern or anything. It's not selling an insane number of copies, like 80, 100,000 copies a month. It's nothing ridiculous. That's how many visitors Penny Arcade gets a day. So like when you kind of think of it like that, but that's also 80, 100,000 people that are all paying a couple dollars to get that comic. So really, I think once they take all the comics and put them in a digital format, I think you'll be reaching 500,000 people instead, but you'll still have that 100,000 willing to pay for the product, but you'll just be reaching more people that will pay maybe a little less for it. And I think it'll just expand it. I think it'll be a good thing, and I don't think print will die.
So those are the economics of webcomics and the digital formats. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.